Lay yourself down on the rocks now. Let your body down in the river. Listen for the drumming on the other side. Lose yourself in the meantime. Lay yourself down on the rocks now. Let your body down in the river. Listen for the drumming on the other side. Lose yourself in the meantime. Listen, let your body be your guide. Let the water decide. Lose yourself in the meantime. Listen, let your body be your guide. Let the water decide. Lose yourself in the meantime. Listen, 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 listen. Welcome back, conscious listeners, to another episode of Listen Carefully. I'm your host, Jen. Welcome to the show. It has been a minute. My goodness, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be back with you all. Today is an invitation for anger. I thought to start out the episode with listening because nothing is as it seems. When we're willing to listen, we're willing to understand what may lie beneath the surface. We're willing to allow what is to reveal itself, to appear itself. And we see things as we are. Therefore, the things that are in our presence reveal and show us deeper layers of ourselves, invitations that say out loud, are you willing to be with yourself? Are you willing to see yourself clearly in this moment? And by the way, because life happens, we get to meet ourselves where we are in our tolerance, in the stress of the day, however it lands for us, while we hold ourselves to a high standard, while we hold ourselves to our own expectations, our own values, our own beliefs. We get to decide. We get to choose how and who we show up as so that we can see ourselves clearly. I have an example of this. Last night, I got woken up in the night. Meraki was barking because of the thunder. Now, my anger has had and has nothing to do with her. And yet she was the one who was mirroring back to me. Other people might say that she was the one to trigger me into that activation of anger, right? But she so happened to show me where I was with my anger in that moment. Nobody likes to get woken up in the night. Getting woken up in the night doesn't always feel good, especially when it's with a loud bark. So I'm over here having my experience of, I feel angry. Ugh. And she's over there having her experience of, I'm scared. What do I do? This is the best that I know how to do. And so I get up, I let her out of the crate. She finds comfort in going under the bed after I've invited her to come up and snuggle. And eventually the thunder stops, or we just both feel more comfortable and we fall asleep. But in that moment, the way for me to receive my own feedback loop, was to express with that kind of guttural grunt. Like I was just like, ugh, right? I needed to let that move through me. I needed to express, I needed to let it out, so to speak. And accompanying that, probably moments after, I was stomping my feet on the bed. I was still laying down, but I stomped just to allow that to move through me. But guess what? Guess what the key was? My anger had nothing to do with her. It never had anything to do with her. And yet she was in the presence of me regulating myself back to baseline, regulating myself, meeting myself in that anger, and bringing myself back into what it would take to breathe deeper, to expand fully, so that we can move on, so that we can move through, so that we could grow. So in that modeling, I got to show myself a healthy way to address, meet, respond, so that the anger had the invitation to show up, still be there. And I got to face it directly. I got to look the pattern in the eye and say, anger, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Okay, I'm safe. Let's move this through, because I know that I am grander than the feeling, the thoughts, the story, any associations having to do with the occurrence, right? And so when I allowed it, I didn't have to make it mean anything about me. I didn't have to make it mean anything about Meraki. But it still got to exist. Yeah, short-lived, but it still had a life cycle. But do you see how we have the choices? If our nervous system feels safe enough to choose, if you think about the reptile brain, the survival brain, the fight or flight, freeze or fawn, all that playing safe for survival, right? When we have our prefrontal cortex online, when we have our thinking brain, when we have our executive functioning, when we have our decision-making qualities available to us, we know we're safe. We know we're in the modern day. But when we flip our lid, when that arousal hits, when the spike of cortisol hits, when the anger strikes, right? When the explosion comes, one, can we have compassion for ourselves? Because our thinking mind is out the window. Can we have compassion? Can we meet ourselves with kindness? Can we lean on support and ask for help? Can we not judge ourselves? Can we not shame ourselves? Can we allow for our humanness to guide us so that we can practice something different? If we spike and explode and then we shut down, and if that's the only way our nervous system knows how to come back into safety, then we never actually get to look the pattern in the eye. Then we never actually get to face the fear of just allowing that feeling to move through us. If we make ourselves wrong and bad for having it, do you think it's going to have any room to exist or space to move through so we can move forward? No, not necessarily. And so rather than fearing it because of the intensity, what if we leaned in? What if we knew that we were greater, grander than the actual experience? What if we knew we had the resource to understand ourselves? What if we knew that we could confront it without the avoidance, without any denial, without any contraction? And if we can face it for what it is, and if we can tell ourselves the truth about what is real right here, right now, what is alive in the now, if we can be honest with ourselves, and if we can admit to ourselves anything we would declare as a flaw or a behavior or something that we're not fond of, once we can confront it and look it in the eye, that's when we have the ability to shift and change, to do something different, so to speak. Patterns love patterns because that's how they can recreate themselves. But when we do something different, it might be seen as a threat to the nervous system until we can show our body the difference, until we can show our body with a breath that we're safe. We can have that deeper knowing of who we really truly are. then we can understand that actually who I am underneath it all is so much bigger than what I could ever imagine. And yes, our behaviors, our consciousness can be a product of the environment with a multitude of factors. But can we know that we are deserving of what is on the other side of that what no longer serves? Can we take that quote unquote lesson or pattern or cycle to show up in the present? Can we let that be the gift? Can we have the compassion for the timing? Can we have the kindness for our divine availability or lack thereof? Can we understand that the intention is to do better and that that can serve as a ripple effect? With grace, with love, with strength, with curiosity? Can I remember who I truly am as a service to humanity so that I can live in my joy fearlessly? Can I remember that emotional intelligence and emotional resilience and emotional capacity is the greatest inheritance there is? Can I remember that when I am the ripple effect, I may not know who that may ripple out into, but that I get to trust that it does? Food for thought. And thankful for it all. Thankful for the entire range, the emotional capacity. Thankful for every stage. But I wanted to share that example because there is an invitation to lean in and move through. Only way out is through. And so as you think about your relationship with anger, what are you afraid of? What are you comfortable with? What patterns and cycles are you ready to say goodbye to and say, okay, this no longer serves because now I know my boundary. Now I know my passion. Now I know my peace. So thank you, anger. Thank you for showing me that. Thank you for teaching me that. Stay curious, stay open. And gosh, I hope you guys have such a beautiful day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. And big love. Wishing you all so well. Mwah.